Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another rally review. I took your feedback and I'm going to continue with this format, so thank you for sharing if you did. Now this rally is from the recent China Open between Mohamed ElShorbagy and Mohamed Zakaria, and I thought this rally was phenomenal for many reasons. We're going to dive into several of them. So let's get right into it. We're going to see here that Shorbagy is using angles like you saw there with the trickle boast out of the back. There was a hold there. We're going to watch this. There was a hold on that one too. Here's a great angle, even though the lob isn't ideal. There's a change of pace. Here's another hold. I mean, it's non-stop disruption and trying to break Zakaria down in different ways. Now, the one thing I want to talk about here is a longer conversation about style of play and the tactics that you choose in any given rally. So when we think about your style of play, in this case, we have Mohamed ElShorbagy and Mohamed Zakaria, two players in very different phases of their careers, two players with different physicality, different skill set, different shot choices. And Shorbagy knows that Zakaria is fit, he can extend, he's going to extend, and he's going to work into Shorbagy's fitness. Shorbagy has the option to try to play that game and be beast mode the way he used to be when he was younger, or he has to use subtlety and he has to be wily and he has to use angles and holds and disguise and deception. This rally was phenomenal for all of the latter pieces I just mentioned. So let's go through this piece by piece, okay? We start off, Shorbagy is in the back and he already starts with an angle. Now in this situation, most players from this position are looking to defend straight, just reset the ball. And you can see Zakaria initially moving to the right, and then he sees that boast, and he's able to get under that ball. Now, even though, technically, if you look at Shorbagy's ball, it's coming almost to the tee on the close to the second bounce, it's a very awkward angle that results in a very awkward movement and awkward positioning when Zakaria is trying to hit the ball. So his options are very limited from this position, which is why Shorbagy can get on that one. And if you notice here, there's another piece of disguise from Shorbagy. He sets up and he can rip a cross-court nick from that position, but instead of finishing the swing angling down, he finishes through. That's why you see his torso lean forward, because he's putting that disguise into the shot. Zakaria reads it quite well, which is impressive. Now here, Shorbagy is on this ball super early, and he's actually coming in over here. You can see his wrist bend back right there. And the reason he's bending that wrist back is to use a little bit of disguise. So he's potentially showing a boast, a volley boast. He's putting in a little bit of a hold on the ball. And you can see Zakaria's legs. He's going forward. Then he has to put the harder break on because he's covering that volley boast. And then he comes back. Now, Shorbagy was unlucky in that he clipped the sidewall early on the shot. Otherwise, if it traveled through the court, Zakaria would have been in more of a defensive position. Now here, Zakaria does well to attack Shorbagy, and even though Shorbagy doesn't get the depth, technically this ball is hitting sidewall at the start of the service box. If Zakaria had stepped back, he would have been hitting from a very advantageous position in this, just behind the back of the right service box. But it was that angle that allowed Shorbagy to get back into that. Now this I really like. Shorbagy, and this is something that most players struggle with, Shorbagy has been on the attack for several consecutive shots. And here, he just chose to simply push that one down the wall to fading length before getting on the attack again. So if we watch this, I really want to emphasize this shot here. There's just a gentle reset, ball's dropping in the back corner, putting Zakaria under pressure, forcing the opening. Here he accelerates onto the ball, puts a hold in, and look at the impact of that acceleration and the hold on Zakaria's body. Zakaria sees the cross, and then he eventually sees a straight, but if you can get your opponent doing this a few times in a game, the legs definitely start feeling it. So you come from here and look, Shorbagy's ball technically hits sidewall super early in the court, essentially beside him. But because of the amount of hold and pressure he put on Zakaria, a quote-unquote bad length still extends his opponent. So this is where there's a bit of a trade-off. We can either work on solidifying every single one of our shots so that they're perfect, hitting from a consistent position, consistent contact point, etc., or we can take the approach, and it's not an or, it's an and or, because you want to do both. The other approach is that you work a ton on disguise and deception so that even if you don't hit the perfect quality of hitting, you are still putting a ton of pressure on your opponent and you're putting them into defensive positions like this. So Zakaria is having to reset that ball. And now Mohamed is, again, just putting in a quality ball, good enough width that it's off the volley. Another simple reset, not forcing just because he's been ahead in the rally a bunch. Another one to try to keep Zakaria off the ball. A little bit of a guess there, good disguise by Zakaria, and good enough width. Now, technically you could say Zakaria could have attacked this ball because this one here came somewhat through the middle of the court. Shorbagy got enough width on it, but if Zakaria had really wanted to hunt it, he could have. But this is also part of his tactics where he wants to extend the point to put a bit more work into Shorbagy's body. So he's happy to take it off the back, also because he has a big angle to attack from. So at the higher levels, if you have this much space when you're hitting, you can put a straight drop in, you can hold, show drop, hit drive, you can show drive, hit a boast, you can flick a short cross-court kill, a short cross angle. There are so many options from this position that Zakaria is happy putting that in. And now I like this one from Shorbagy because again, there's disguise on it right away. Zakaria's ball pops out a little bit. And here, if you look at Shorbagy, he drops that racket in and he breaks his wrist in this situation. And there you can see the broken wrist. But that broken wrist, again, is creating disguise. It's showing something on the right side of the court. Technically, if that racket face is trailing, you're thinking that you're going to hit a boast. So he's potentially showing the boast and then running that wrist through the ball to hit the straight drive. Now, again, the weight of stroke isn't perfect, so Zakaria gets back into it. But it's the mentality from Shorbagy that is, I'm going to try to break you down with disguise every single time. And over here, this boast is another interesting one where Shorbagy is in the position, he can hit a straight drive, and then he just angles in a quick little boast. Notice the technique was very similar to the straight drive, kind of medium pace reset down the wall. And Zakaria's T position is actually pretty far back in the court. Shorbagy doesn't hit the perfect ball here, which is why Zakaria is on it early. And here Shorbagy is guessing now. See, Zakaria hasn't even hit the ball, and Shorbagy is already leaning for the cross court. Now you can ask yourself, okay, why is he leaning for the cross? There's several reasons. One, this rally has gone on for a while, and Shorbagy's put a bunch of work into Zakaria's legs, and he's held him, he's used disguise, he's created threat from different positions, he's demonstrated different options. At this point, from this position, when your opponent is getting closer to the side wall and they're hitting from here, oftentimes players end up hitting a cross court, so Shorbagy is poaching over for that cross court. It's a combination of a bit of a gamble, a bit of a bet on Zakaria's choice that he's going to execute from that position. It's also a bit of a hedge around not getting too tired in the rally and not having to chase excessively while having done some damage to him. And then Zakaria also does well here because he opens up that chest. He sells the cross court a little bit more, as you can see a bit on the follow through, as well as his chest position. And that's what catches Shorbagy. So folks, again, lots of details. I didn't talk about other things around their approach to the ball, their body position, their contact point, and all of those sorts of things. I wanted to show you some of the details without getting overly detailed. Now, again, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you liked in this breakdown, if there are things that you want to see more of. And as always, if you want to learn what your ideal tactics should be, how to structure rallies, what approach you should take based on your age, your ambitions, and all sorts of things like that, please send me an email at ahad@arperformance.com. I work with athletes all the way from competitive juniors to masters, adult players, and well, everyone in between. My only ask is that if you're passionate about squash and you want to work at it, send me an email and I'm sure we'll find a way to build your game up together and honestly drive fulfillment. That's one of my primary goals. And anyways, take care and I'll see you in the next video.